Köszöntöm a Mandiner csatornáinak a nézőit, én Hajdú Tímea vagyok, a Mandiner külpolitikai újságírója, és itt van velem Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Welcome. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who is a writer and author, a very famous critic of Islam, and a recent Christian also. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
You have been one of the most well-known critics of radical Islam in the last 2 decades. How do you see the threat of radical Islam? Has it become smaller, bigger? Is it the same?
The threat of radical Islam to Europe has become bigger, much bigger. Maybe not in Hungary, because there's a healthy national identity in Hungary that is conscious of the threat and tries to ward it off. But in places like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, the threat has become only bigger. Why do I say this? 20 years ago, when I started talking about these issues, we had, maybe 25 years ago actually, we had a relatively small number of Muslims and their children, and we didn't have an infrastructure of mosques and Islamic centers and Islamic schools run by the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamist organizations that could define the outlook of Muslims and others. Today we have that. Today, in every country where there is a large Muslim population, there is also an established Islamist movement. Established Islamist movements tell their audiences not to assimilate, to take an attitude of hostility towards the host society. They tell them, we're going to conquer Europe, we're going to do it through the ballot box, we're going to do it through participation in the political process, through the media, through schools, through the womb of the Muslim mother. So they have all of this long-term strategy that they're deploying. And also because of immigration through the asylum system, when large numbers of mostly Muslim men of fighting age arrive, the Islamists try to bring them into the mosque. So Islamists they're doing all the hard work to develop a movement that will overtake Europe one day. The European leadership, on the other hand, have got their heads deep in the sand, and it goes deeper and deeper every year that comes by, and they pretend there is no problem, and that people who talk like me are we think we're the ones who are causing the problems. So there is this mismatch of this advancing ideology, and the people whose job it is to stop that ideology are not stopping it.
Mm-hmm. One of the consequences of mass migration to Europe is importing all these Muslim young men. And you wrote a book called Prey,
yes,
about how the sexual violence against European women have increased because of mass migration.
Yeah.
How was your book received? Has anything changed in the last 4 or 5 years since the book has been published?
Well, since the book has been published, the problem exploded. So what was initially happening to girls and women in working class neighborhoods, and it was smallish neighborhoods, but now it has overtaken the whole neighborhood, and it's spreading, and it has spread to places everywhere. I mean, every time I talk to women from these countries, they say they worry before they leave the house about what might happen to them. That's how I grew up as a Muslim child, right? It was always, be careful, men will do this to you and men will do that to you. And in Europe, I remember a time when it wasn't like that. You never thought about it. Day or night, you went about your business as a young woman, as a girl. And that era now belongs to the past. I'm not saying all Muslim men or all immigrant men are sexual predators. What I am saying is some of them come from cultures where it is normal to be hostile to women, to rape women and to harass them. And so when they come here, no one educates them, no one assimilates, no one tells them that they can't do these things here. And so they carry on doing it. Actually, it's worse. These men watch pornography, and many of the stars in these pornographic films are white women. So they come prejudiced about white women. If you go to countries where there are white infidels, the women are sluts, sex slaves. They're barely dressed, especially in the summer when a lot of women wear summer attire. So these men come heaped with this idea. I can just go there and have women at my beck and call at any time I choose. And again, there is the people who are responsible for checking this. For the longest time, they were in denial about it. I describe in the book, I have a whole chapter called the Playbook of Denial, where politicians are in denial about it, civil servants, prosecutors, the media. Basically, everyone is saying, there's no problem to be seen here. You know, local men are just as bad as immigrant men, or local men are even worse. So these women and what they're reporting and what they're going through, it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So things have also changed. The populations are rising up against it. In the UK, the rape gangs, Pakistani Muslim men who organize to rape only white children, that's now being acknowledged and addressed. It didn't come, the story wasn't acknowledged in England. It's because Elon Musk, after he bought Twitter, decided he was going to use his amazing platform to say something about it. And only after that did it get traction. And now maybe there's going to be an inquiry. But there are forces within the British government who are determined not to have that inquiry.
Mm-hmm. So while most of Europe is turning away from Christianity and becoming atheists, or some Muslims, you were once a Muslim, then in Europe you became an atheist, and now you have become a Christian. So could you talk about this a little, how this change happened, and what difference do you see between a Christian culture and the Muslim one?
Well, I became an atheist in Europe after 2001, when we had that major debate about the terrorist attacks in New York and Washington, D.C. of 9/11 September 11, 2001. Mm-hmm. I left Islam because I found the teachings of Islam harsh, irrational, incitement to war and to oppression, and very little pushback against those teachings. The best that many of my Muslim fellow believers could do was to say, it's not Islamic, it's not Islamic, it's not Islamic. But the people who are doing the things like jihad, destroying tall buildings, selling women into slavery during the years of ISIS, those things were done not just in the name of Islam, but they were citing the Quran and the Hadith and invoking the Prophet Muhammad. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't think that it was satisfactory to just sit back and say it's not Islamic, it's not Islamic. Mm-hmm. I wrote a book called Heretic, where I invite Muslims to change 5 key principles within Islam to transform it mm-hmm. from harsh and warlike to peaceful. Well, we'll see about that. Mm-hmm. I chose to become a Christian completely on personal grounds. I found my way to Christ because I was going through some very personal upheaval, going through mental distress, depression, drinking too much, and found my way to it. And I'll say, for me, it's a fulfilling way of life. It gives me meaning. It gives my life purpose. And everything that, as a Christian, I learn about Christianity, the values, I'd say, they were actually values I already was attracted to or observed, and it's just strengthened within me. You know, I mm-hmm. quote from Sermon on the Mount by Jesus Christ. I mean, that's just wonderful. But aside from the personal note, I think there's also a civilizational picture that we cannot ignore, which is Europe is a Christian civilization. America is a Christian. This is the Christian West. And if you throw it out, you throw Christianity out and everything that it has, the identities that it has shaped, the architecture, the music, the stories, if you don't pass that on to the next generation, something else is going to come in its place, and it's not attractive. And the two things that I see coming in, it's radical Islamic ideology, which thinks it has to offer Europe something better, and it's the rebirth of radical Marxism. But now it doesn't come in this conflict between those who have and those who don't. It comes draped in identity politics, and in racial politics, and in transgender politics, and in climate politics. And so it's presenting itself as a solution to modern problems. And I think that the way to really get this right is a renaissance, a renewal of our foundational principles and philosophies, and Christianity is a major one in that one.
Yeah, last year you debated Richard Dawkins, who is your friend, and who is one of the most famous faces of the new atheist movement.
Yes.
And you said to him that your problem was that atheism basically offers nothing to young people, and he couldn't really answer to that. Why do you think that?
I think Richard could not answer why atheism is to be preferred over Christianity as a moral package of guidance, because most atheists, I quoted Bertrand Russell, assume that reason, human reason, will offer humans out of problems. That is your go-to problem-solving mechanism, and it is to a certain extent. But when this natural human hunger, what makes us different from animals, that we seek spirituality and a sense of meaning and purpose, when that comes along, the atheist has nothing to offer. And if you look at what atheist movements have achieved, they've only achieved destruction. Marxism was an atheist movement. To a certain extent, I'd say even National Socialism was not just collectivist, but in its core, it was atheist. And so atheism, in my view, is not, I don't think it's the answer. Mm-hmm. And again, what Richard Dawkins doesn't realize, and it's not just Richard Dawkins, but many of the Christian atheists, they rebelled against Christianity, but they still hold on to Christian morality. They live in Christian civilizations. It's Christianity that allowed Richard Dawkins to pursue his goals and to be accepted as he is. They don't realize that, like me, when you come from, I'm a Muslim atheist. I was a Muslim who became an atheist. That when I reach for morality and I reach for renewal, I found it in Christian civilization. I didn't find it in my Islamic civilization. There's nothing called atheism. Atheism is an attitude that says there is no evidence that there is God. But it's not nothing else other than, it's not a way of life. Mm-hmm. It's a rejection of a way of life, but it doesn't offer a new one.
Yes.
Yeah, and when it does, you get the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
The CCP in China. Yeah, yes. Go on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is...
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
coming.
Thank you.